Hello and welcome to another honing video. Today I'm going to be working with a silver orchid razor, as the box implies. This razor was sent in by somebody who watches the channel, and it's a very interesting razor, really nice shape, a very nice slight curve. Very slight smile at the edge. The razor has no issues other than one, which I'll talk about in a minute. It lies flat on both sides. There's a slight raise at the heel, but it's really not an issue. The only issue with this razor, I think this razor was refurbished at some point. Let's see if I can show you. See how wide that bevel is? It's wide and actually quite rough, and the edge is dull. So I'll show you a microscope video of what the edge looks like now. And as you can see, the edge is pretty rough, but that's okay. It's here for sharpening, and so we can take care of the rough edge. The issue, and it's interesting because the previous razor that I did, the Carl Friedrich Urn 207, had the same problem. This razor, as I said, I think it's been refinished at some point. There's a very high polish on here's the back side. There's a very high polish on the blade. And when I went and measured it, I found that the spine is very thin. This razor has just over a 15-degree bevel angle, which is very small. You know, as I say, 15 to 18 degrees is a very comfortable range, and this is right at 15 degrees. And my concern, as it was with the urn, my concern with the spine width is that it's so narrow. There's such a small landing zone for this to lie directly on the stone. There's such a small landing stone at the edge of the spine that I'm concerned that just with a little bit of hone wear, we're going to be right in. We're going to be abrading the blade, and that's really not what you want to do. The idea is that the spine rests on the stone to be a sharpening guide, but not the blade. Let me show you why this is a concern of mine. So this is a Wade & Butcher. This razor was sent out. This is mine. This is a 6/8 wedge. This is mine, and I sent it out to have these horn scales made. And when it came back, there was a pretty significant chip in the edge. And there was no good way to deal with that, so I took the chip out. And then I got concerned with the bevel angle, as I normally am. And like this razor, there was very little landing area up here, and there still is. And I took the risk at the time, because this has a fairly wide bevel angle. I took the risk of laying it down on the stone to sharpen it. And you can see that didn't work out very well. You can see that I ended up grinding onto the blade. Not so much on this side, but definitely did. And nevertheless, it still has a very wide bevel, but it still has also a wide sharpening angle. So if I'd used tape, I would have widened that sharpening angle. But in retrospect, I think I should have used tape and just dealt with this razor never being the greatest shaver in the world. Because it's not a good compromise. It shaves okay, but it looks badly. And it certainly when you have scales that are this nice, you don't really want to have them with a blade that looks butchered by the person who sharpened it. So this razor has made me very sensitive to this issue. I wasn't obviously before, but I am now. So what I'm going to do with this razor is I'm going to put tape on it, and I'm going to do that right now. Okay, we're back. The razor is taped, and we're going to do a synthetic progression on this, and that's because the owner is just starting to do his own honing, and and he has synthetic stones, so I want to give him a baseline that he can use to compare his work with. As a side topic, or as an aside, I should say, this person is in the military, and I always give a break to anybody who's in the military or who is a first responder. Lots of respect from me to these people who even though for some it's just a job, nonetheless that job includes some service to the rest of us, and I certainly appreciate that. All right, let's get to the stones. Okay, here we are. I'm going to start with a 2000 grit Shapton glass synthetic stone. The purpose of this is going to be to establish the geometry on this razor that includes the angles that are created by adding the tape. Most people call this setting the bevel, and the assumption is that you set a bevel with a relatively coarse stone. Fact is, it really doesn't matter. The advantage of using a coarse stone is speed. This removes material more quickly than a fine stone, a stone with finer abrasive on it. But the fact is, both remove abrasive. It's just that this is the most efficient way. So we're going to start here. I'm going to show you, since I know I have several people who are new to honing, so I'm going to show you how to flatten a stone. This is a 2000 grit, which is reasonably, for knives, this is where I finish most of my knives on this. The more expensive stones get a finer edge. Anyway, so this is an Atoma 140 diamond stone. This has diamond clusters. This is very old. It's probably more like a 400 or 600 grit stone now. And the purpose of flattening is to make some pencil marks and simply flatten until they're gone. The stone itself, the diamond stone, is flat. And so when you've used the diamond stone's surface to flatten the stone is flat. Okay, it's a little bit more. It's good to not just go back and forth, because you might have more pressure in one direction than the other if you sort of chaotically move about the stone. Then then you're more likely to get it flat. Something else that you should do if your stone is new, flatten it right away. They have a glaze on them, and you need to get that glaze off. The other thing that you want to do is to chamfer the edges, and I just do that very quickly. There we go. So we are good to go for flattening stones. Get yourself a little brush and brush them off. Brush out the abrasive residue. It really extends the life of these stones. This stone right here is easily 10 years old. Well, maybe not quite 10 years, but it's old. I've been through 2 or 3 of these. Okay, so this is now flat. I'm going to hang on. I'm going to raise a coarse slurry on this stone. This is coarse as in these are little diamond stones. The 2 that I'm going to use today are actually fine and extra fine. So of these 2, this is raising a more coarse slurry. You can do the same thing with the diamond stone. I do this so that I can a little bit better control the texture of the stone. When you raise a slurry, you're also texturing the stone. And I don't want the stone to be too textured, and so I use these little stones to get better control. Now, you don't need to use a slurry with a synthetic stone. I recommend it. It helps to keep the overall edge of the razor soft. The overall apex kind of soft until the very end, and it adds a little speed, adds a little cutting speed, and if you get used to using slurry when you start, you will be already comfortable with it when you eventually start playing around with natural stones. So I'm just you will see me use primarily half strokes. That's what I'm doing here. And I'll also use alternating strokes. An alternating stroke is like this. And then I'll use rolling X strokes. This is a rolling X stroke. And what's rolling about it is pressure. Pressure starts at the heel, rolls through the center, and out to the toe. But for the most part, those are the 3 strokes you'll see me use. I will also do some, these are edge leading strokes where in direction of motion the edge goes first. Later you'll see me use some edge trailing strokes where the spine leads the edge in the direction of travel. Let me concentrate a little bit here. Now I do not count. I use visual aids. I watch the slurry. I'm obviously removing material because you can see the slurry darkening. And so I've gone to alternating strokes and also X strokes because I'm going to do my first test. That's the other aspect of this is if you're going to use a progression of grits from coarse to fine, then it kind of makes sense not to, and you're going to do that for optimal speed, then you need to know, well, when do I come off each stone? And the answer is you come off each stone when the razor is sharp. And so we're going to test it's not sharp here. The way I'm testing is with the packing peanut, and all I'm doing is taking a small area of the razor and pushing it into a small area of the packing peanut. Pressure is force over area, so if I use a small area, a small amount of force implies pretty high pressure on the area that I'm using. So I'm not breaking the surface yet on any part of the edge, so I've got more work to do. Now you'll hear people say that you have to really put your work in when you establish your geometry. They call that setting the bevel. That's true, but what that really means is that you need to bring the two bevels to form an apex, and when you do that, you've established your geometry, and so you know you have an apex when it's sharp. The other thing that you want to do, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, is you want to make sure that that apex lies directly under the spine, and that's easy. You do not have to do that by counting. It's easier to do. Well, you can do it by counting, but a more accurate way to do it actually is visually and by feel. The reason I say that is, if you count and you do the same number of strokes on each side of the razor, if the razor starts out skewed to one side or the other, you're not really changing that skew. You're simply maintaining whatever that geometry is by doing equal work to each side. So if you do this method, if you use the method that I'm about to show you for keeping the edge under the spine, the apex under the spine, you have a better chance of getting it there, of making sure that it ends up there. Now right now, in order to determine if it's sharp or not, I am doing approximately the same work to each side, but I'm really waiting. I'm doing it in a way that it I'm monitoring how the edge feels. If it feels on the same here as it does here in this direction, by the edge I mean this very part here, not the spine. If it feels about the same, and I have about the same travel of slurry over the edge, then that apex is good enough. That apex is as close to being perfect under the spine, under the center of the spine, as it needs to be. Again, this whole operation, all of this stuff is very low precision. And we're low precision shavers too. You know, we aren't super accurate in the way that we shave our face, and our faces are all weird shapes and sizes. So what translates here is very personal, very, very unique to each person. So you want to get the razor very sharp, but very sharp in human terms, not in machinists' terms. All right, so I still think we're not quite there. Let's see. And this packing peanut method is what I recommend because it gives you data, empirical data. You have data that you can use to measure your progress. Ah, look at that. So we now have an apex because I'm able to, without much force, break the packing peanut. Now what I'm going to do here on this stone, still the 2000 grit, I've just achieved an apex. Now I'm just going to take it a little further. I'm going to use this method. I'm going to take it just a little further. So that to make sure, the purpose of taking this further is to make sure that I've gone as far as this stone can go. And the reason for that is efficiency. It will take less time for this stone to give me everything that it has than it will take for me to go to the next stone and move from a suboptimal, apex to where this stone could have brought me. Now my tape is starting to go, so I'm going to pause and put on some new tape, and I'll be right back. How do you tape an edge? Well, you cut some electrical tape. This is Super 33, a 3M Super 33. You cut a piece of electrical tape a little longer than the razor. Put the razor right on the center of the tape, and then simply fold it over. Some people run their fingers like this. I tend to sort of carefully fold it over. You want to make sure you have no significant bubbles on the edge. This particular razor is quite difficult in that regard. What I should have said, no significant bubbles on the spine where it rests. Doesn't really matter if you have bubbles where it doesn't rest. This razor, the spine is quite sharp where it rests, and it actually cut the previous tape. Anyway, so a lot of people, if you have the OCD, then you'll do that. And now we're good to go. I'm going to test, see how much improved this is, and it is improved. It takes a lot less effort to push this into the packing peanut. So I'm going to call that good, and that's as much work as we need to do with the 2000 grit stone. We now have a bevel geometry established to the point where we have a good apex. And now what we're going to do is simply take an apex that's like this and end up with something that looks more like this. As you sharpen a razor, it gets shorter. So the grit of the sharpening stone, whatever it is, limits how narrow that apex can be. So that with a coarse stone, the razor won't be as sharp as it could possibly be when it gets refined on a finer grit sharpening stone. So we're moving to a finer grit stone. This is the 4000 grit. Its abrasives are 1/2 the size, 1/8 the volume of the previous stone. I need to flatten this. I flatten stones. It's just been my habit through years of knife sharpening. I tend to flatten stones almost every time before I use them. Now if I'm doing several knives, I'll flatten them, you know, do several knives and then flatten them again the next time. Now I'm not too concerned with this edge the way I was with the previous razor. The previous razor where I used tape, the edge had corrosion on it, and that corrosion extended way up into the bevel. And so I took a hard look on the microscope after this 4K stone. I don't think I'm going to do that here. Add some. Now, how do I know how to add water? I want the slurry to be kind of milky, not like a paste. I want it to have a thickness to it so that it's giving me the benefits of having a slurry, but I don't want it to be a paste. And so these things do tend to thicken as you use them, and so when you see one of us thin the slurry out, most of the time what we're doing is simply controlling its viscosity. We're controlling how thick that slurry is. See, it's thickening up again, but I have very good flow, so I can feel that the apex is meeting the stone. It's not perfect yet, but I'm only at 4K. So let's test. Get a little data on progress. I generally dry the blade quickly before I test so that I'm consistent. Okay, that's good. At this stage, 4K making a little pop as it goes in is okay. I'm going to do what I recommend to you, which is to take it a little further. I'm actually going to wash that off. Take it a little further on the stone. It's still got a little bit of slurry. Hopefully you can see. What I'm watching for is I want to see the movement. The main thing I want to see is movement of the slurry over the edge on these edge leading strokes. I want to see that to be the same on both sides. And then I want to feel, as I pull, I want to feel that apex. And when I push, I want to feel that apex also, and I want them to feel the same way. A slightly more advanced knife sharpener thing is I'm also very conscious of making sure that the heel and the toe are equally sharp, have equal sharpness to the center of the blade. Most folks who are going back and forth like this are trying to sharpen the whole blade. I am not thinking of the whole blade. I'm thinking of the edge in sections. Sections would be rear section, center section, and toe section. and or heel section, center section, and toe section for a razor. And I want to make sure that at all places it feels the same and operates the same with slurry. And if I do that, my results are going to be consistent and should be very good for shaving. All right, let's do another test. Okay, we are in very good range here on this 4K. So let's move to the 8K. The tape is holding up pretty well. I'm going to use two stones here. This is once again the 140 Atoma that abrades more like a 400 or 600. And then I'm going to use this diamond sharpening plate from Shapton, which when it was brand new, this is also very old. When it was brand new, it was effectively a 400 grit stone. It's probably more like a 600 to 800 grit stone now. Okay. Now this is where now I can really feel the apex on the stone. Before it was kind of the feeling was more of a rounded, like almost a tiny pencil moving across the surface of the stone. Now it's much more like an edge, like a thin piece of metal. And I think anybody can do this. You know, it takes practice, but you can do it. Now you can see this is thickening up, so I'm going to add water to make it more milky. You can see I have very good motion of the slurry over the blade. I'm using mostly X strokes, but also half strokes. And so for me, this stroke here is one that helps to clean the edge of any debris, clean the apex of any debris that's created doing this. Because this is abrading at the apex and then pushing the bits that are pulled away up onto the edge, and this motion helps to clean those bits away. We call those bits burr. Obviously, most of this discussion is for those who are just getting into honing. All the pros they tuned out in the first minute or two. All right. Let's see where we are with this. Back with taking data here. Okay, so that's still popping. At 8K, this doesn't want to pop. This wants to be, this is going to go further. This should be more silent coming off of 8K. So we're going to, just for grins, we're going to flip where the other side of the stone. That's something that you want to eventually think about. Don't always use the same side of the stone. This motion here is not really a rolling X stroke. This motion is to encourage that slight smile on the edge. I'm slowing down to feel. I hear people saying, "Wait a minute, you haven't talked about pressure. Isn't pressure important?" Yes. Yes. More pressure, more abrasion. But okay, there we are. That's where we want to be. Soundless or almost soundless. Coming off of 8K, that's where we want to be. I call this pushing into cloud territory, meaning it's almost there. Why aren't I pushing very far? Because I only really care about the first 1/2 millimeter of this edge. That's the part that cuts the hair. Okay, we're going to move to, we're going to call that good. Maybe I'll do a couple of more rounds here, just to be consistent with the process. Let me get back to pressure. I recommend when you start that you use enough pressure that you can feel the edge on the stone, but don't be a gorilla about it. You want to feel that edge, so you want enough pressure that you can feel it. When it's dull, you won't. When it's dull, it'll feel more like a very thin tube instead of an apex. But you want to feel that tube, and then you want enough pressure that you can feel that changing. But don't overdo it. And so that's the best advice I can give you. As you get more experienced, you will learn how to modulate that pressure more. But the simple rule is more pressure, more abrasion. Less pressure, more feel. Okay. This is the Nano Superstone 12K. Not my favorite stone, but that's the job done. Why isn't it my favorite? Well, mostly just because it's got a feel to it that has no excitement. It's the binder in these are inexpensive stones. The abrasive is the same abrasive aluminum oxide that's used in most synthetic stones. So it's not a matter of the abrasive, it's a matter of the binder. The binder is this stuff that they make the brick from that holds the abrasive and releases it as you sharpen. All right, let's we've done this. I'm going to use the extra fine stone here. I'm going to raise a very light slurry, but I want to do this. Again, this is one of these things where I want to be very careful about texturing the surface. I want this surface to remain smooth. But I want a slurry, a light slurry on it. Okay. Now here I'm going to do primarily, these are edge trailing strokes. If you're just starting out, don't do this, because again, you need a feel for this. I have some pressure here. I'm drawing, this motion draws out the edge. It's removing material because it's an abrasive stone, but the direction of travel pulls metal away from the apex as it gets removed. Now, instead of driving metal onto the edge, this pulls metal away, and not all of that metal gets removed from the edge. Some of it still stays attached. We call that metal a foil burr. It's metal that's weak because it's poorly attached, and it'll seem sharp, but it's not. So we need to, you'll see me, I'm going to remove that next. And the reason I say don't do this at first is again, it simply requires the amount of pressure that you use is a matter of feel. And it's not that it's difficult, it's just, if you're just starting out, first things first. Now I'm removing that foil burr using this, what I call a cleaning stroke, what other people call a rolling X stroke. And when I do all of these strokes, I am always looking for the same thing. Does it feel the same on each side, and do I have the same slurry activity on the edge on each side? Okay, I'm going to pause here for a second. The spring pollen is starting to get to me. All right, so we've come off this stone, taken care of some nose blowing. Let's test. Okay, so that's good. That is where we want it to be. Could be a little sharper. We may end up going back, but it's very, very close. I'd say most of the area of the edge is pushing into the packing peanut with no sound and almost no pressure. And it's a push that I'm doing, not a slice. This is a slice. This is a push. Okay, let's do the next step. Next step here is to do a little stropping on a balsa strop with some very fine abrasive on it. This happens to be a diamond emulsion that is 75 microns, 0.75 microns in size. One micron is 1/10. Sorry, 1 micron is 1/1000th of a millimeter. 1/millionth of a meter. I'm using continuing to use the tape on this because I want the geometry that's established by the tape to be preserved. I was going to do a long talk about tape today, but this video is once again very long, so I'm not going to do it. Now, how many of these do you do? Normally I would count. Normally I'd do 20 or 30. It's the abrasive is very, very small, and it's not removing a lot of material, so the exact number is less important than just getting some finish applied here. The goal of this is to actually round the apex just a little bit. Remove material, but round the apex just a little bit. Round it in a sort of a concave way, just a little bit. I find that adds an awful lot of comfort to a synthetic edge. This is, as I mentioned, this is just balsa wood, flattened. And then there's a magnetic magnetic strip that's holding on really well. Magnetic strip that's holding on too well. There we go. There we go. There's your magnetic strip. Okay, so now next up is some stropping. For now, I'm going to take the tape off. The amount of give in the leather should allow me to get the I'm cleaning. Should allow me to get the very apex onto the leather. I'm going to do probably 40 or 50 laps on this. I'll do the first 10 or so and then come back when I'm done. So all I'm doing for stropping is, now I actually do this differently, but for you want to put the spine down, roll the edge down, move with the spine leading, roll on the spine, put the edge down, and don't move backwards, and then move forwards with the spine leading. Okay, I'm going to do about 40-50 laps, and I'll be right back. Okay, I did about 50 laps on this. I'm going to go to the microscope, make a microscope video of the final edge, and then I'm going to go and test shave with this razor. Thanks very much for watching. I appreciate all the time you've spent with me, which I know is once again a lot because I talked a lot. But again, thank you, and I will see you in the test shave, hopefully. Bye.